Minnesota Vikings, we know, yes, they ran pure last year. They went 13-4. There was a lot of one-score games. There was a lot of things that broke their way. And so you did have one of the, air quote, luckiest teams in the NFL in the Minnesota Vikings. Now, I bet the Vikings to win this division, and the reason I did this is mainly because of the number that was attached. Now, it is not the same now. It's 275. I got nearly a point higher than this, kind of like it was like 345-ish range, 355-ish range that I was able to get them at. And I just look at this, Mike, and I think even with the inevitable regression, like there's going to be a regression for this Minnesota Viking team, but I don't know if we haven't just overcorrected kind of too much with this team. If you take a look, I mean, I think Addison for Thielen is, if anything, a plus. I certainly think that Addison creates a more dynamic thing out on the field to get Justin Jefferson open a little bit more, because you do have to take account for what Addison can do out there. And, listen, Kirk Cousins, for all of the trash that gets talked about Kirk Cousins, he's still been one of the better quarterbacks in the NFL. Like, he has still been one of the guys that has at least been very reliable and certainly is in the upper half of the quarterbacks in the NFL. And I know you're saying, well, upper half, what does that really mean? Well, when you talk about how bad some of these quarterbacks have played and how bad some of these quarterbacks can be, being in the upper half is not the worst place to be for sure. So I'm expecting regression, but even with the regression, I think it could still be good enough to win this division at least 1 out of 3 times.
Yeah, it feels like the hate's gone a little too far in Minnesota here. I'll agree with you on that front. Yeah, they were dominant in one-score games last year, but even if they go 500 in one-score games, they still would have won 9 games last year. So that's a pretty strong record anyway, and you're over that 8.5 number. I agree with you on Addison. That's a massive upgrade in that spot. They have issues on the defensive side of the ball, but everyone in this division has issues on the defensive side of the ball. So we're going to talk, like, one of the things I love in this division is overs. I think this is going to be one of your biggest over divisions in football, because all 4 of these teams have offenses that have the ability to be dynamic and defenses that just love to give up points in bunches. So to me, this is an over division when you're betting in season. The Vikings are kind of who they are, right? They were who we expected they were last year. They were a team that played a lot of close games. They have the ability to come from behind because they can protect the passer and have good offensive weapons on the outside. It's exactly what they have again this year. I expect you're going to see a lot of similar games from the Vikings. You're probably not going 9-0 again in one-score games. But you know what? You'll probably go 5-4, 4-5, somewhere in that range. And this division isn't that tough. I think there's holes up and down. So I don't hate the idea of the Vikings. I did bet another team, which we'll talk about a little bit later, but I don't hate the idea of the Vikings.
Go to VSiN.com/subscribe to become a VSiN Pro subscriber today.